story of how you got here.
Yeah, that was part of my planning, my intro. Yeah, I have already planned that, but it's like really brief story. Do you guys see my screen?
We do.
Yes.
Your share is
Okay.
up. We've got 4 minutes until we get into the presentation. So we're just going to chat with you for a little bit until we get started.
Okay. Awesome. So shall I unshare my screen?
You're welcome to keep it up while we're talking.
Okay.
I'm really excited about this because purple teaming, of course, is I don't think it's a new concept really. I think it's something that it's not, but it's new to, I think that it's really the way it's been formalized as a process. We've published a purple team exercise framework, and that's looking more at the traditional red and blue together. And what I thought was really cool about when I reached out to Trupti, and again, she's going to talk about how she showed up here, but I'd seen that she'd given this talk before, and I had never seen anybody put purple teaming in application security.
Yep, 2016 last con. That's where I first gave the talk. Because I was tired of being one person AppSec show, and just red teaming or just blue teaming was not working out. I had to combine both and create a feedback loop between blue teaming and red teaming. So yeah, today you will get to hear the story of how this all started. So are we live right now, Brayson?
We are live. Yeah, no, we are.
Yep.
We are just here chatting. We're keeping the audience entertained until we start the formal presentation.
Okay. So Brayson, how did you got into purple teaming?
How did I get into purple teaming? Okay, so I used to do really spooky things a long time ago, and I started GRIM by myself as a consultancy back in 2013. And
nice.
At the time, I had this idea for a more integrated operations loop for being able to, essentially conduct offensive operations, and then a feedback loop for understanding that, because that's, even today, that's still relatively simplistic. And as the years went on, we started getting into commercial penetration testing and commercial red teaming, and it was really interesting for me coming from, where, I mean, again, red teaming is meant to be the emulation of an adversary's tactics. And there's a number of compromises that are inherent in that approach, because you can't spend the same amount of money as, a client's not going to spend that amount of money in that amount of time, and red teams generally can't spend that amount of money or time to do something that is like, the equivalent of like, we're actually like the Chinese APT. And so I knew those compromises, but I didn't realize how far down those compromises went. And so it was several years of learning that. And one of the things I quickly picked up was, and I think anybody who's done offensive security, whether that's penetration testing or red teaming, where you do the test for the client, you come back a year later and it's the same thing.
Yep.
It's the same vulnerabilities. And you think about it and it's like, well, I mean, I gave you this 50-page detailed report. Why didn't you fix these things? And the reality, of course, is, well, they've got their normal lives of doing these things, and that's not always a priority. And so I just kept thinking there had to be a better way. And one, I felt like the process could be improved. Why can't we help them fix this as we go? Two, I didn't like what I saw, the ego-driven mindset of penetration testing and red teaming. And that's a talk I've given, I don't know, I think I first gave that talk in 17 or 18. Because I got the impression that the teams were just trying to win. They weren't trying to help the client. It was, how can I win? How do I get to AD? How do I drop mic? And boom, I won it. And it's not business oriented, and it's not beneficial, and it's adversarial. So that's where I naturally found myself into the concept of purple teaming before I even knew what purple teaming was. I'd never heard the phrase. I just had arrived at it intuitively from my experiences.
Okay. You know what I thought? That's super simple. I knew you have some sort of military, army, or Navy background. I thought you were actually a Navy SEAL in your past life, and that's where you learn not only defense, but bunch of attack techniques, and you brought those to cybersecurity. So were you a Navy SEAL?
I was an Army officer.
Okay.
I'll try not to take that as an insult that you thought I was in the Navy.
No. Everything is very respectful to me. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, no, I'm just teasing. Yes, I was an Army officer. I worked in the intelligence community and national security for a long time. And then for those of you who aren't aware of my current biography, I still participate in government. I was a strategic advisor to the director of CISA last year. That was Chris Krebs. I left in November. And I'm also an advisor to the board of the Army Cyber Institute.
Okay, cool.
But this isn't about me, Trupti. This is about you and your awesome presentation, which we look forward to hearing all about. And I cannot tell you again, when I saw that this was in your background, I just really liked when you and I'm not going to give away again how we met and why you're here, but I really liked it when I met you, and when I saw that you had done this, I wanted to see how this works. So can't wait.
All right, so let me put you. Do you guys see the presenter mode? Yes,
Yes.
no?
Yep, looks good.
Yep.
Awesome. So GRIMMCon, thank you so much for inviting me here. What a pleasure to be here. And the short story is how I found out about GRIMMCon is I happened to meet the founder of GRIM, Brayson Bort, in a panel talk for security innovation. And the topic of the panel talk was purple teaming. And I'm like, wow, I don't even know there is a whole company out there that exists that believes in purple teaming and helps their customer with purple teaming approaches. So I was very impressed, and Brayson actually asked me, hey, do you want to talk at GRIMMCon? I'm like, why not? I will be more than happy to share 15 years of my product security learning and how I adopted purple teaming here. With that, let's begin. So before we get into purple teaming, a little bit about me. It's been 15 years. I'm doing product security, and I was a mobile game developer who did not know the difference between a random number, secure random number, and a cryptographically secure random number. So as a naive developer, I have done a lot of mistakes that I would not do now. And this really helped me to understand the pain points of development teams, engineering teams in general. And I realized how fascinating product security is, and I decided to switch my career from mobile development into product security. After 15 years of product security journey, I have recently started my entrepreneurship journey. I will be working on building a genomic privacy startup pretty soon. But before that, I have led application security programs at Amazon, Q2A Banking, Illumio, who is a leader in microsegmentation, and HP. And when I'm not doing security, I like to travel, paint, and meditate. If you have any questions about purple teaming or content that I will be presenting here, or if you want to have just informational chat with me, feel free to reach out at these social media handles. So today I will be obviously talking about my experience as part of blue teams, my experience as part of red team, why these two teams are not sufficient, then what purple teaming philosophy is, and then I will talk how we can implement purple teaming as part of the software development life cycle to scale and make it more impactful. I have a couple of examples, and then I will be providing a reference to a case study done by Security Innovation and Illumio together. With that, let's begin. As you all know, blue team members are those security engineers. They work with engineering team, development teams, QA engineer, and they basically educate software developers about security controls, defense, way early in software development life cycles. Whereas red team members can be an independent internal security team which focuses on hacking shit out of a product, or it can be an external penetration testing team that security teams usually engage right before the product moves to production, or right after, basically when the development is complete. The motto of security team, the blue team, is basically they are optimist. They believe in the power of security controls. They believe in empowering developers about the knowledge about security controls, and they try to work with these engineering team to make sure the product that they are building, all the security controls are considered. And I look at blue team members as bunch of optimists. Whereas red teaming members, these are more paranoid people. They never think that security controls are enough. And these people are so creative. No matter how much effort blue team folks have put into securing the product, the red team members always end up finding vulnerabilities. And that's because they focus more on exploitation technique and creative ways of exploiting the product. Do you all agree with me? Now, with that, what's purple teaming, right? As you know, I love painting. One day, while walking in an electronics store, Fry's, I was thinking, why is it, no matter how much effort I put helping my developers about security controls, defense, the red team members, in my case, mostly external penetration testing teams, they always find some new attacks. Every time there is a new tech stack or a new framework used by engineering, then the red teaming findings are even more. And while walking in that shop, I was thinking, why is it? Why can't I help my development teams so that the findings in a penetration test report literally becomes zero? What is it that's missing? And then it struck me. You know what? As a blue team member, I'm teaching my developers everything, the security controls, the requirement techniques, I'm doing threat modeling, but I never discuss exploitation techniques with them, the exact exploitation techniques used by red team members. And that's when I thought I need to create a feedback loop between blue team and red team. And when we mix blue and red together, it becomes purple teaming. And purple teaming folks are realists. Let me give you guys another analogy. So blue team folks, when they help their engineers with throughout the product development with bunch of security controls and whatnot, they roll out the most appropriate security tools to help them speed up the secure deployment and delivery of the product. These are optimists. Let's say they are stuck in a storm while sailing in ocean. The blue team guys believe that, you know, all the controls, defenses their product has, they are going to easily survive and pass through that storm. Whereas my red teaming member, the paranoids one, they are like, you know what, this ocean in that scary storm is so bad, we are not going to survive. Whereas what purple teaming members do is they do not get scared. They are not super optimistic. They are the realist one. What they do is they prepare for the worst. They hope the storm will pass soon. And in order to survive in that storm, they make necessary adjustment by adjusting the direction of the sail. That's how they survive. Now let's talk how this purple teaming philosophy can be implemented in the form of process. I'm sure you all have seen security within software development lifecycle. The top half of this diagram shows waterfall SDLC. Usually nowadays, 10-15 years back, waterfall SDLC was very common, but now the industry has moved into more agile software development lifecycle. as we are going more and more into a more microservice oriented architecture. But in some of the legacy applications and system, we still see waterfall SDLC exist. So if you look at how security is weaved in today's software development lifecycle, we will see that at requirement phase, we security members do threat modeling. Then in design phase, we do something called design architecture review from security perspective. In coding deployment phase, security engineer roll out those fabulous static code analysis tool that help developers find code related issue. Then in testing, we basically implement and roll out bunch of security testing tool. It could be a dynamic application security scanner or open source security scanner, or it could be interactive application security scanner. There are like bunch of tools out there. Today's talk is really not about tooling, so I don't want to shift my focus. And then when the product, the application is ready to move into production or has just moved into production, basically the code base is mature, we hire penetration testers to come hack our application and find as many security issues as possible. Now, as you all know, penetration testing is expensive. Plus, it happens way late in software development lifecycle. When we do threat modeling, we basically use checklist approach, or same for design architecture review. So the result of penetration test, we cannot replicate way early in software lifecycle development. If you look at the second, the bottom half of the image, which shows agile SDLC, more or less, we do the same techniques, but the frequency of these security assessment methods are actually different. The speed of delivery and deployment is so high in agile SDLC that we put more emphasis on basically tools. And again, the story is same. When the product is mature and it is available in production, that's when we conduct external penetration tests. Let's take another look at the same software lifecycle development, but through CI/CD. So with the rise in microservices, the industry has adopted more continuous integration and continuous delivery model. And here we give paramount emphasis on rolling out the right tools. And for some reason, the industry thinks that if you have the tools, that means you have the security. You have done all the necessary due diligence. But in spite of all these tools, penetration testers still find really good security issues, right? Yes. So why is that? And I believe that most of these security tools are still in their first generation. They don't necessarily have the context of the business logic of the application, or they are not exclusively made based on the technical stack the particular application uses. That's why there is like a lot of false positive, and it's a nightmare to deal with not nicely tuned security tools. So I'm not going to get there. But basically, in spite of having army of security tooling, still there is something big is missing. Now, when I talk about purple teaming, which is basically mixing the knowledge of exploitation techniques and security controls and making your developers educated about it, this is how it looks like to me. So in requirement phase, the way, or even before requirement phase, imagine when you approach developers or QA engineers or any engineering team with bunch of security findings from penetration test report, they don't like it. It's their baby. You're calling their baby ugly with all these security findings. Generally speaking, they do not like it. But when we approach development teams with security trainings, then they feel empowered. I have worked with so many smart developers, and nobody has ever not liked security training. They really appreciate when security teams approach them with very comprehensive security trainings exclusively designed for their stack, their style of architecture pattern, used by the engineering team. So when I try to do purple teaming, I always start with developer security training. If they are using Ruby, React, JavaScript, I don't try to teach them vulnerabilities in C, C++. I focus on their tech stack. So purple teaming always starts with developer security. In requirement phase, irrespective of what SDLC you're using, I try to teach them security requirements, and I have a detailed example just after a couple of slides. In design phase, I not only tell them security controls, but I also explain them exploitation techniques. And what I request them is, now you fine tune your design based on the exploitation technique. And then rest of the SDLC goes in the similar fashion. So let's take a quick example. This is an unrestricted file upload feature. This type of feature is very common in a lot of applications. It could be, uploading image or simple text file. So let's see how I apply purple teaming to this particular feature. Before I apply a purple teaming, let me explain you, as a blue team member, what would I do? As a red team member, what would I do? So as a blue team member, whenever I see my developers are building this type of feature, or they have recently built this type of feature, I make sure to educate them about, hey, bad guys can access this feature and they can upload nasty stuff like virus. So make sure you only allow authorized user. Then I also try to tell them about file size. Make sure you put a restriction on file size. Otherwise, somebody can upload a zip bomb, right? Then I talk to them about, hey, make sure you do all sort of input validation by checking the right file extension. And please do not use a blacklist approach, or deny list approach. Always list, allow list approach. The extensions that you are expecting, please ensure that those are in the allow list instead of blocking all the bad extension. And once the file gets uploaded to the server, don't forget to run antivirus. Now this list looks pretty comprehensive, right? Yes, it is pretty comprehensive, and it can probably take care of 90% of the attacks. Now, as a red team member, I think like an attacker, because at any cost, I want to take down this application. I want to upload shell script to take over not just the application, but eventually the system and network. That's my intention, right? So I try to think about all sort of creative ways. First thing, I try to look, hey, can I bypass any function level access control? Then every file has a magic number associated with it. The magic number is actually the signature of the file. So by manipulating the signature of the file, you can basically upload bad malicious files into the application. Then not only this, I try to see that, can I change the content of the file by adding injections? I actually tried this in a banking application which accepts Excel spreadsheet. I try to add cross-site scripting and SQL injection as a content in that file. The application was doing a decent job at verifying the extension, size, authorization of the user, but it was not doing a good job verifying the content. And I was successful creating a cross-site scripting injection there. Now, let me wear the hat of a purple team member. I have the knowledge of red teaming techniques. I have the knowledge of security controls specified by blue teaming. I'm going to mix these two together. So I'm going to turn my exploitation techniques into security requirements. So let's go back here. I have already, let's say hypothetically, I have already trained my developers about what could go wrong with file upload. Now I am explicitly mentioning the exploitation techniques and turning them into security requirement even before they write a single line of code. And in this way, I am shifting that security towards left. I am making my developers purple team members, because they are no longer just developers, they are no longer just security focused people, but they actually have knowledge of exploitation techniques. That's what purple teaming is. And when we have those type of discussion at requirement phase, the probability of avoiding these type of security findings is so high. Also, by preventing these issues from occurring, we are eventually reducing the cost associated with fixing these issues as well. There was a beautiful study done by NIST in 2002, and it talks about cost of fixing quality bugs in each phase. And compared to production, issues identified in production, if somebody fixes these issues in requirement design phase, it is 10,000 times lesser. Same thing applies for security defects, because security defects are nothing but quality defects. Security is actually part of quality. So why deprive our developers from this knowledge? As a security team member, why should I keep all this knowledge of exploitation technique just to myself? When I share it with developer, it becomes easy for them to implement, and it becomes easy for me to scale it at higher level. So let's take a look at another example. Now, the first column here indicates security principles. These are the 11 security principles, and if you can think about any 12th, please get in touch with me. I'll be more than happy to do another talk with you. The next column shows security requirements. The third column shows security control, and fourth column shows exploitation technique. Now imagine a developer has not written a single line of code. They have come to you to get security requirements on session IDs. Basically, they're building authentication module. Now, one of the simplest security requirement when somebody deals with authentication is the session ID should be sufficiently long. They should be random and unique across all correct active session base, right? So this is the requirement we have given to the development team. And then in order to further secure the session IDs, we also tell them a security control that, hey, you can even do a digest of that session ID, and make sure you use a cryptographically secure random number, and you use a FIPS approved crypto library to compute the digest. Now, as part of purple teaming, do not stop here. You have done a good job as a blue team member. But as part of purple teaming, remember, we are supposed to teach them about attacks that could happen. Now, as a red teaming member, when I see a bunch of session IDs or random numbers, what do? I do entropy analysis, and I try to find out if the entropy is less. I try to do a brute force attack, right? So let's educate our developers about these exploitation techniques in requirement phase itself, and help them, partner with them to find the right library that can defeat entropy analysis as well as brute force attack. So that's really purple teaming is. Now, let me cover some other aspects of purple teaming. As I explained before, it is extremely important to approach engineering team through training, and you can create purple teaming through your security trainings. Second, do not just focus on developers, QA engineers, the people who actually write code, test code, but also focus on architects, focus on your product managers, focus on your program management office who are responsible for all the releases and schedule, and also also on the executive team, because it's the top-down approach that always works. Bottom-up approach doesn't work. So in purple teaming, focus on all sort of roles and responsibilities that are important to ship a product, and then weave security accordingly. As I explained in those two examples, always map your business requirement to security requirements, and then eventually explain the security requirements in the form of controls and exploitation techniques. You will be most successful implementing purple teaming approach when you speak the same language of your software development lifecycle. Do not keep the security knowledge to yourself. Go attend their Scrum meetings, go participate in their bug triage meetings, go participate in each and every story time and explain the controls and exploitation techniques. So when we completely immerse ourselves into engineering processes and life cycle, that's when they understand us, and that's the real success of purple teaming. And eventually create a win-win situation for all sort of parties. You can do this by acknowledging their efforts. You can do this by calculating metrics that, hey, once we applied a purple teaming approach, see how many less bugs have been found by red teaming members, or ever since we implement purple teaming approach, see QA engineers are fully capable of finding security defects, or how the overall posture of security posture of the product has improved. So call out those wins, reward their efforts. And what I like to do is every 6 months I like to host a hacking event where I invite all my developers, QA engineer, VPs, director, and come participate, hack with us. All right, so that was about purple teaming. Let me conclude here. My time is almost up. So we just now saw having red teams doesn't help. Red teams and blue teams, they both are extremely important for security of the product as well as organization, but they working in silos doesn't help. When there is a feedback loop between red teams and blue teams, and when we share that knowledge with engineering teams, that's what purple teaming is. And purple teaming kind of approach offers a more holistic approach. Purple teaming can be easily weaved into organizations' software lifecycle development process. And as I explained, when we educate our developers about exploitation techniques, the number of issues that get produced are less. The number of defects, security defects that get identified, the remediation rate is very high, because developers already know how to fix it, find it and fix it. The overall ROI becomes super high. And I genuinely believe, in my 15 years of experience, it's the purple teaming that truly facilitates shift left. And it also helps to scale application security. Recently, I had done a case study on purple teaming with security innovation. And if you guys are curious or keen about how I had implemented purple teaming in the past, I would highly encourage to check out this case study. With that, are there any question answers?
So yeah, we already have a question. Will the slides be available to download? Is there some place that folks can get these?
Yes, the slides are already available in my LinkedIn profile. I have shared them on SideShare. Also, I'll be sharing the slide deck with a GRIMMCon committee.
The case study that you mentioned there, is it possible that we could paste that link somewhere?
Sure. Do you guys still see my screen?
No.
Oh, do you want me to share the link right now?
Yeah, if we could just paste it in chat.
Absolutely.
Just that link for the case study, and then we'll also throw it on Discord.
Absolutely.
So when did you first come up with this idea?
2015, when I was one-person application security team at Q2E Banking in Austin, Texas.
Nice.
So similar,
Nice.
right? There's got to be a better way.
Yeah. All right. Let me share this in chat. Grayson, I think you guys still see my screen, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
So this is the case study, and I'm kind of struggling to open the chat.
Okay.
I think I'm not allowed.
Okay. If you email it to me, I'll post
Okay,
it.
I can do that.
You probably want to stop sharing your screen so we don't see your email.
Oh,
There you
okay.
go.
Finally.
I decide
Finally.
I'm always so
Oh.
sensitive about that OPSEC fail whenever I share my
Oh my
screen. I'm like,
gosh.
Okay.
oh no, people are going to see something sensitive.
I know.
And here is a link to the case study. Unfortunately, this talk is an hour long, and because I had only 30 minutes, I had compressed it. So there are many more aspects of purple teaming that I would love to explain if anybody is interested, like how to implement purple teaming in a typical software lifecycle development.
What are some common mistakes you've seen in that implementation?
Some of the common mistakes, I'll start with people. Just because security engineers are excited about security and they're passionate about security, they assume everybody's interested in security. And unfortunately, that's not the case. So what you will see is out of 100 engineering team members, maybe 50, 60 are interested and not everybody. So we have to keep that in mind, that besides security, people have other things on mind, such as, releasing the product on time, making sure the shiny new features that generate revenue gets preference over security bugs. So that's one thing I have seen. Not everybody's excited about security, but those who are excited about security, giving them adequate knowledge and training and making them your ally, kind of creating security champions, that really helps. The second mistake I've seen is not getting executive buy-in from the top tier management upfront. It's extremely hard to weave security in the software lifecycle development, and you need right budget, right resources. So when you don't talk about these things upfront, it becomes difficult and security becomes afterthought. The third mistake I've seen is rolling out incompatible security tools. As I said, security tools are still in their first generation. They still produce a lot of false positives. There are still true negatives. So these tools, when you are doing proof of concept to select right tool for your organization, always make sure you include your developers, QA engineers, get their perspective as well, how they are going to feel about operating on these tools. It's extremely important. So, and another thing I want to call out is there is just way too much emphasis on buying commercial tools. Sometimes it is super easy and cost effective to build your homegrown security tools. Would you like to hear an example, Brayson?
Absolutely.
100%.
So I have seen a lot, and this is a beautiful example of purple teaming approach as well. In one of the organization I had worked, I had seen a lot of sensitive information was getting leaked into logs. Now, application security folks do not take a look at logs. Logs are something analyzed by the infrastructure security team members in production, right? They have access to SIM and they sometimes may catch it or may not catch it. But getting sensitive information leaked into logs is such a crucial problem, because these logs, let's say in case of a SaaS application, these logs get shipped to customers, and from customers' environment, God knows which business analytics will capture and may encounter sensitive information. So this is a really big problem. And in spite of teaching my developer, I, um, do not log sensitive information, I was not having great success because, to be very honest, development teams, they do generate logs for debugging purpose. That's how they debug. And when they are testing security features, it is quite possible that they may log session IDs or credentials or whatnot. So just having a proactive approach of telling them, hey, do not capture log was not sufficient. So what I did using my purple teaming hat, I participated in their story time and I exclusively called out a security requirement. Once this feature is complete, QA engineers will write automation to look for session IDs, credentials, tokens, and all sort of sensitive information that this feature is using, and they will make sure that it is not getting logged. I did not stop there. I requested development team to actually write a homegrown scanner. So they wrote a simple grep-based filter that can scrub logs, and it basically checks for these files. So in this way, throughout the software lifecycle development, not only the requirement story time, but also in design, QA, and post-production base, we solve this problem. And having our very own homegrown security scanner to identify sensitive information inside logs was so much more effective than learning sim tool and trying to find this type of information. It probably took half a day for development team to write such tool. And because this tool was written as a collaborative effort between security development and QA guys immediately plugged that tool into automation, QA automation framework. Now that tool runs on all the releases, all the test beds, and we get to, we basically identify sensitive information ASAP. So that was my purple teaming approach to solve this issue.
So follow-up question on that, since you started talking about something that came out in our panel, which is like in the security community, we take for granted that people even know what red and blue is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the building community, right, it's like that's just like we throw it over the fence, right? It's the classic like development to operations challenge. But then there's all of these security components to that, which are essentially a part of quality and features, right? We're turning them into features and stories and agile development so that they're incorporated in that way. But something I still have, I think it would be interesting to, as like a further step in that maturity, would be building system of systems security testing into the pipeline. So not just, you know, particular features to the application, but recognizing that an application runs on a system and there are other systems around that, and the security is not just directly the potential vulnerabilities on the application on that system, but also, you know, potentially what could be an unintended consequence somewhere else, or on the plus side where I'm mitigating and controlling those, even though I didn't realize it, or I can implement those controls and know that. So because a vulnerability does not necessarily have to be addressed directly.
Yeah, I like to talk about you know, defense in depth approach. You know, many times development teams may not have time to fix the vulnerability by making code changes, and that's where, as you explain, Brayson, we need to rely on security controls provided by the system, or security controls provided by the network at organization-wide level. For example, you know, there is a cross-site scripting in some application. The application is already in production, and it would take, let's say, 2% days to fix that vulnerability and then test it and release the code. We don't have that much time. Hey, let's go for WAF. WAF is an organization-wide you know, control, and it will prevent the injections from getting into the application even before those cross-site scripting payloads reach the vulnerable application. We stop it. So WAF is a great control. Another good example I can think about to prevent is CSP, content security policy. which is also implemented for entire application, the enterprise application. And it can prevent cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. And because of these defense and diff techniques such as CSP or WAF, we are actually giving our development teams enough time to thoroughly fix the vulnerabilities and test the fix.
Well, that scratched my itch. This is what I was looking to hear, and I really appreciate it. Trisha, do you have anything?
No, this has been so fun, like listening to both of y'all go back and forth, because it's such an interesting concept. And I had never even thought about it as specific to the AppSec side, which is huge. It was such a great talk, It makes so much sense, you know? It's like, it seems so obvious, but I've never even thought of it.
Yeah, and Trisha, when I tell my developers and QA engineer, I am the blue team or red team, but you guys are my purple teaming now, because you are now fully knowledgeable about the exploitation technique relevant to this application. You are my purple teaming. They get so excited and thrilled. I can't even tell you.
Love it. Again, it's another theme that we've had with almost everything is, you know, this positive reinforcement and bringing people together. And, you know,
Yes,
it's a very important aspect of our community, 100%.
yes. So it's like extending our security community to development teams and utilizing on their skills. Like, it's been 15 years I've written code. So, you know, it was kind of tricky for me to write that log scanner. And when I asked my development team to do it, they're like, yeah, boom, half a day. And here my log scanner is ready.
Oh, I love it.
I'm going to be picking your brains one-on-one in the future, because I've got some implementation ideas in that space. And I have a funny feeling that this stealth startup you're a part of might be connected to this space as well.
Sure. I am happy to help in any aspect. I do believe in purple teaming. The artist inside me believes in purple teaming, Grayson. So yeah, utilize me wherever you want to. And I'll help with whole heart.
And with the site gift card to the swag store that, if you haven't seen it, was sent a day or two ago, you can get a purple unicorn, so one of our purple team t-shirt.
You know, I have already ordered it, but now I want what you have. You have some golden unicorn, right? That's a golden.
So I should have changed colors. I have my purple team. So this is my summer unicorn outfit, because, as Trisha noted, I was giving her professional unicorn advice that the onesie gets hot. So I don't wear onesies anyway. I have custom hoodies, and so I have. What was it? Did I wear a hoodie for our panel? I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. I remember that wonderful hoodie.
Yeah. So I have the blue team, the red team,
nice,
and the purple team.
This is such a flex right now, Bryson. Such a flex. Yeah.
And then the golden unicorn on top of everything. Love it.
But yeah, so I also have, I should have switched out my summer unicorn for the purple.
Well, we have 1 minute left. Why don't you do it?
Well, I mean, it's going to be you sitting there watching me mess around with Velcro, and I think it's going to just look embarrassing that I'm as uncoordinated with Velcro as possible. I show up, you know, in proper uniform. Me doing the props, kind of messy.
Totally understandable. All right. So I guess this is it. Once again, Brayson, thank you so much for introducing this wonderful platform to me. What a pleasure to talk here.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Bye.